Welcome to the Witness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Trader, and this is episode 17. How many of you out there thought you might never hear those words again? It is good to be back. I hope you all have missed me as much as I've missed you. I also hope that everyone had a great 4th of July. We just recently celebrated 250 years as a sovereign nation. And that's a pretty big deal. So, happy birthday, America, from the Witness Podcast. Can you believe we haven't released an episode since May 10th? That's crazy. I hope you haven't been too worried. I told you we'd be back by July 11th, and I tried my best to be true to my word. This episode will be dropping on July 12th, so I was one day off. Anyway, I assure you, I have not been sitting on my hands. If you follow us on Instagram, you've seen all the reels we've been putting out. Hopefully, by the way, you've had a chance to pick up a copy of Wayne Brown's book, Sports Biblically Speaking. I've been trying also to put together some excellent episodes for you to listen to. We also have a website up and running, but more on all that later. For now, let's get into episode 17. One of the aims of the Witness Podcast is to show you what God is willing to do for absolutely anyone, and to show you how much He desires to be a part of your life. Let me say that again. To be a part of your life, no matter who you are. You don't have to be on TV or behind a pulpit or holding a microphone. You don't have to have your life completely right or even right at all. All you have to do is be available to Him. And honestly, God will do things in your life even when you're not making yourself available to Him. He will let you know that He's there because that's how much He loves you. In Matthew 10, verses 29 through 31, and this is the New Living Translation, it says, "What is the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? But not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows." And there's an old hymn that was written, and it's based on that verse, and I'd like to share that with you also. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. My next witness has story after story of how God proved to him over and over that His eye was watching him. It seemed no matter where he was in his life, God was taking pains to let our witness know that He was there with him and He wasn't letting go. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in a long time, I call to the stand Brother Adam Day.
Will you tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Adam Day,
What's up, man?
welcome to the Witness Podcast. You can pull that microphone down a little closer.
All right.
So yeah, man, welcome to the Witness Podcast.
Thanks, man. I love coming up here. I love being here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, man. I was saying before we started recording, I've known you for a long time, but I don't think we've ever really had much of a conversation. It's always just saying hi in passing. But I know that the past 10 or so years have been kind of up and down, but it seems like it's sticking this time around.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So why don't we just start from the beginning, man? Why don't you just tell us, where you're from, where you were born, how you were raised, what your early childhood was like?
All right, so I was born in Fairfax, Virginia. I moved to Maryland when I was around two, in between 1 and 2, time when I don't remember. I moved here to Maryland. I originally, as far back as I remember, I was in PG County, Lanham, and my childhood was a little bit rough. But neither one of my parents back then were really going to church. My mom came from a Catholic background, and she kind of pushed away from that because of a lot of strictness with her side of the family. And my dad grew up Pentecostal, like Southern
Really?
Pentecostal, like
Oh, interesting.
yeah, weird stuff though, like the snakes. And,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, hey. But yeah, so that was both of them. My dad ended up kind of turning to alcohol when I was younger, and him and I didn't really see eye to eye with a lot of things. I always tended to like defend my mom because it's my mom. My dad is actually my stepdad, so my real dad left when I was like baby.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you don't know your real dad at all.
Not at all. I do, but not that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But
Biological. You don't know your biological
there you
father.
go. There you
Okay.
go. But yeah. So he was kind of in like the alcoholic spiel, and he was kind of a little bit violent towards my mom when I was young. So I always defended her, and when I was like around, I want to say like 5 to like 10, he used to do like pretty crazy things to me, like not like sexual things, but like physically hitting me, and I remember there was a few things that happened where he raised me up to a fan and basically told me that he didn't want me around, he didn't want me to be in his situation, and that kind of held on to me for a long time.
This is
Um,
when you were like between 5 and 10.
yeah,
Wow.
and it was pretty consistent. I remember getting like my first bad grade when I was like in like fourth grade, and telling my vice principal because she saw me staying behind at school. So she was like, Adam, like, is everything okay? Why aren't you going home? And I was like, I don't want to go home. I'm kind of afraid to go home because I have no idea what this guy's gonna do to me. And the Child Protective Services ended up coming to our house, and he basically told me to stay quiet.
Did
And
did the lady at school call him?
yeah, the
Okay.
vice principal, yeah. And my childhood kind of like reflected that for a while until I was about like 16ish.
So did your father wind up getting in trouble?
No, he didn't. They kind of like threatened him a little bit, but directly afterwards, he told me that if I ever said anything to any of them again, that like he just kind of like gave me that threat, and
And
I
you
was
took
like,
him serious.
yeah, very.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was kind of the start of my childhood. Once I had moved out to, so I went from PG County to Columbia right around the time that my younger brother was born. He was born in PG County, but that around that time was when my dad stopped drinking, like as much, I guess I should say, and started to like turn his life around. And with that, everything started calming down, but uh, he still was very like verbal towards me, which kept that running in my head. Like, I don't want to go back to the way he was. So
Right.
like, I'm just not gonna say anything to him. And from that, I ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd of people in high school, and yeah, I started smoking weed. I started smoking weed when I was 11 years old with people from my school. Um, I wasn't like a full on like uh, pothead or anything like back then, but it was my way to get like revenge at my dad without actually talking to him.
Did you know what it was when you were 11?
Yeah. What weed was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But at that time, my mind frame was like, I almost like I didn't care. And I kept doing that. I ended up hanging out with this guy that was a senior in high school. So, of course, I started going to parties and things like that.
As an 11-year-old?
No. That was like around 13, 14.
Oh, okay. Still.
Yeah. So I ended up going to parties with him. His name was Wes. I could say that because nobody knows who he is. But I believe he actually became a pastor, which is crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, it's really cool. But I hung out with him for a while. I was going to parties, and that's kind of when I got introduced to sex and, the whole like quote unquote rock star lifestyle, drugs, sex, and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I did that all the way through
As a 13-year-old?
13, yeah.
Golly.
And yeah, I couldn't, I didn't want to go home. My main focus was don't go home. My friends are always happy. They're never talking about anything negative, even though we're partying, doing all the wrong things, you're not thinking that at the time. You're just like, this is making me feel good.
Right.
And none of these people are saying anything that's offending me or anything.
Yeah.
So I did that all the way through high school. I didn't get the best grades through high school, obviously, because of that, and skipping school and doing all these things that I probably shouldn't have been doing.
I think it's an important point to make there, because I know that, especially like within the walls of the church, we look at that lifestyle as being very. We look really down on that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And to a degree we should. It's dangerous and it's not good and it's not pleasing to God. But I think that a lot of times what we miss is those people are not trying to be bad people.
Yeah.
They're looking for acceptance.
Yeah.
They're looking for escape.
Exactly.
And we need to remember that when we consider that they're living in that lifestyle,
Exactly. And at that point, I wasn't like I had no introduction to God or anything. So that focus on God, I didn't even really see any of that during that entire portion of my life. So from the church perspective, it's like exactly what you said. However, like on the other side, when you don't know God and you don't know like anything when it comes to, testimonies or anything about like what God can do, you're kind of just feel alone. So that's pretty much where I was at that time. Then once I got out of high school, I was like full blown like the party man, and obviously because of all that time, and I was having more sex than I needed to. I was doing a lot of things that when I look back now, I'm like, I can't believe I even like lived through that. I can't believe that that nothing happened to me, like even like disease wise or
Yeah.
anything like that. Also, I noticed that I'm not getting any of these girls pregnant or anything. So I ended up going to the doctors, and the doctors told me that I basically will never be able to get a woman pregnant. And from that point, I was like, all right, game on.
Wow.
So,
So you're taking that as a
yeah,
free ticket.
yeah. So,
Oh my gosh.
so it was horrible, man. And
Now, up to this point, you had no church experience whatsoever, no exposure to church or God or anything.
So at the end of high school, I started having an introduction to church, not really so much to God in my own life, but I started kind of witnessing it from the side to other people in their lives. It was like about, I want to say, actually, I remember it now. It's 2010 when I really started like paying full attention to what God was doing for other people. And I still, because of my lifestyle and everything, I was like, this is never going to happen to me. Like I'm not I'm not worthy of any of this, which is true. But at the same time, it's like I I just felt like, you know, I was an outcast. I was like this hardcore rocker dude that did all these things, sex, drugs, and alcohol, and that's kind of where all these tattoos started and
Right.
everything. And that was also like a little bit of rebellion towards my parents because they didn't want me to have tattoos for a while. Well, for my whole childhood.
Right.
And I was like, no, screw that. So I pushed against them. And
Were you interested when you had this exposure to God or church? Were you interested in it, but you just felt like you couldn't do it?
I felt like other people, to me, when I had that introduction, I was like, these people are already like living good lives. They aren't doing the things that I'm doing. I don't think that God can. At that time period, I was thinking in my head, like, I don't even think God even has an interest in me.
Which is another kind of an interesting perspective, because from someone who's like you looks into the church,
Yeah.
and your perspective is you don't have any idea that most of the people there came from very similar backgrounds to yours.
Yeah.
In your mind, they're just all goody two shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what's funny is the really funny part is I didn't actually know that portion of church until this last time around.
Really?
Like, I knew about my cousin, and I knew like she came from a little bit of a ghetto background. So I was like, all right, God has interest in different people, but like she's still not quite on the same terms as what I was. So I was like, no, he's not gonna do that for me.
Right.
And like I said, 2010 happened. I started really witnessing like full blown miracles that God was doing, and I was like, all right, I want whatever that is. And
Like what kind of miracles?
like seeing people getting healed of cancer, seeing people, being delivered from alcohol, not really like drugs yet. I know that there were people that were being delivered, but like I said, I didn't really know about that until this time around.
Where were you seeing it?
Here.
Oh, so you came here back then?
Yeah. I was part of the Bowie congregation back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I've talked about this a few times on the podcast. Antioch, the Apostolic Church, has several different satellite congregations.
Right.
And back then, and right now, we're more or less divided into Antioch Central, Antioch West, and Antioch North.
Right.
But back then, when Adam is talking about, we actually had a bunch of congregations throughout the state. And so there's a city called Bowie in the western part of, well, not western Maryland, but closer to
Yeah.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about you were going to the congregation with Brother Rhodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He's the one that baptized me.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you wind up there?
So my cousin Jalen Mock and Carrie Mock were the ones that really fully introduced me to church and introduced me to these miracles and introduced my way of really seeing fully like what God's doing around me. And I was like, even if he doesn't have an interest, at that time I was still thinking similar. And I was like, even if he doesn't have an interest in me, maybe I could play an effect on other people that are like me and they can receive these miracles. And
so you're 17 at this point?
No, I was older than that. I'm getting up there, bro. You see this?
Yeah, well, you got nothing on me, man.
Bro.
Mine's gone.
It's just the comb over, brother. It's the comb over. No, so I got introduced by them.
Now you grew up with Jalen to a degree?
To a degree, yeah. I've always been his older cousin. So back in the day, he used to look up to me, and I was like, why is he looking up to me? Like, I'm not a good influence. And I told my cousin Carrie, because my cousin Carrie was like, you're not listening to your music over here at this house. You're not doing. I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I even tried to like play a little snippet of something on YouTube, and she came out like a firecracker. Boo! And she was like, nope, not happening. I was like, roger that. And
so you had some exposure to this through them.
Yeah.
As a younger person, I guess.
Yeah.
And then that you finally relented and went to church with them one day?
Yeah. So it started off with my mom and dad going, and I didn't have the fullest interest in it. I was more so going because my family was going, and my mom was like, "Get your clothes on. You're going to church." And I was like, "All right, I'm going." And I would go, and at first it was like, I'm just gonna ignore everything. And then I started seeing these things working in people, and I was like, no way. And it was like God just kept showing me, and it was like, all right, starting to get more interested as I'm like getting a little bit older. And then, like I said, I started kind of craving wanting to help people because of my previous situation as I grew up. And I was like, all right, maybe I can do this and my lifestyle outside. And low-key, I didn't realize that was the reason why I was getting like blinded by the fact that this couldn't happen to me. Because my lifestyle was still going on outside of church.
Right.
And like I would go to church on Sunday, Monday I'm back smoking weed.
Right.
Tuesday I'm back drinking. I'm doing the same things repetitively. And
were you working now?
Back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with I worked with my dad doing HVAC. Excuse me. I worked with my dad doing HVAC, and I also worked at the mall at a place called Pacific Sunwear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that place?
Yeah.
Because, of course, like, all the stoners worked there, so I was like, yeah, this is a cool place for me to be. But, yeah, I was doing that and still coming to church, and it was like, like I said, it started off with just Sundays, and then my cousin started asking me to come to her house, and they would pray over me. And when I say they, it was like her, Carrie Mock, Jalen, a few other people, Tiffany Jack. Do you remember a lady named Lynn?
Yeah, of course.
So she was like when I say that she was like my spiritual mom, when even when she actually, the day that she passed away, I felt like I could hear her praying for me.
Wow.
And I was like, why do I feel like Lynn's praying for me right now? And I called my cousin. I was like, hey, hey, Care. I call Carrie, Care. I was like, Care. And for some weird reason, I felt like Lynn was praying for me. Like, I just heard it in the back of my head. And she was like, that was when she told me, Lynn literally just passed away.
Wow, that's wild, man.
So, yeah. And I feel like that's also another way that God was like trying to speak to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it was wild. So I started getting more hungry around that time. That was like in between 2013 to like 2016, 17. I really started pushing, and I was like, I'm gonna go head in with this. And I stopped doing a lot of the things that I was doing outside, not all at once, but I stopped doing them like little bits at a time, so I could be more focused, and still not quitting, still not fully quitting or doing anything like that. And I pushed myself, and it kept pushing, and then ended up having like a hunger to help like kids and things like that because of my situation as a kid growing up, and pushed for like a campus ministry. I was here for the beginning of Mike's ministry, Mike McGurk. I did the prayer walks with him in the very beginning, which I saw these pictures the other day, and I was like, whoa, this is a flashback. But like I said, even though I was doing like better things, I was still doing things outside of that. And I wasn't really seeing the full picture. And I kept trying to help everybody else. And I was like, maybe one day that this will happen to me, but I doubt it's going to be anytime soon. And kept pushing. And finally got into a relationship back then. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to say her name specifically.
Hold on just a second. At this point, had you been baptized or anything yet?
Oh, yeah.
So can you tell us about that, how that happened and what led up to that?
So
how far back was that?
Baptism was in 2010.
Okay, so how did that take place?
That was when I started seeing all the miracles on other people, and I was like, I want that. So my cousin was like, well, if you want that, you got to take these steps. And I was like, all right, what's a fast step that I can do right now? And she was like, well, ultimately the first biggest thing that you need to do is get baptized, so you can be saved. And I was like, oh, sweet, saved. Finally, yes, I need that. So I went and talked to Brother Rose, and at that time, like I said, I had a hard time being open to people, so nobody knew any of this stuff. And yeah, it basically went from there to like I said, around 2017. From 2010 to 2017, God was working in me through other people, and he was just continuously showing me pretty much what I could have without actually giving it to me, because I wasn't laying down these things.
Oh, interesting.
And
were you filled with the Holy Ghost also at that when you were baptized?
when I was baptized, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was in a horrible place. But that shows you God will reach down at any place that you
Wherever
are.
you are, yeah.
Yeah.
Did when you after like immediately like you okay you came out of the water, you're speaking in tongues,
Yep.
and then you was there a period of time where you stuck with it before you slipped back?
So yeah, I I stuck with everything that had to do with church and like the whole background of church for like a solid like I know you're expecting a long period of time, but it was like 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
And then I slipped back into things because I would go back home and uh, the thing that I had in my head was like, if I can help these people at church, I can help them outside of church, which, yeah, that's true. But there's a lot of steps that we have to make in our life before we can get to that. And what ended up happening with me is I ended up falling back into sin because of the people I was talking to. I was like, God can do this for you. God can do this and this and this, and like trust me, dude. I seen it, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, Adam, that's awesome. But then um, they would be they would be like, that's cool, man. That's cool. Here, and then like next thing you know, I'm smoking again. So um, it's kind of is crappy looking back and thinking in my head like all the things that I was doing uh, through church, but then also living like a side life. And I ended up like because of that shame with my dad. Um, I ended up kind of being shameful towards like older men in general and trying to like point out their mistakes and things like that. And it got to a point where I'd even tried going against what was actually like supposed to be me in submission to my elders. I ended up doing things kind of against that and against a specific person that was really high. Well, not really high, but like, you know, just someone who's extremely anointed. And it was a horrible mistake. But when I came back, dude, I went to pause, which I don't know if you've ever talked about that on here, but it's like a conference that we have here at
Right.
the church. So I went to pause and I saw that person, um, and I walked up to him, and this guy is like a lot older now.
Is this
So,
recently?
yeah, this is recently. The last pause that we
Oh,
just
wow.
had. So yeah, yeah. This when I say the past year and a half, God has done so many miracles in my life, dude. Like it's
Yeah, I'm
unbelievable.
looking forward to getting to that.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of started off like right around there though. So actually a little bit before that was when God started really hitting me with the miracles.
Right.
Uh, so I get there, I see this anointed man. He's highly anointed, um, and he's just spitting off all these things that are just directly hitting me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that I went against, and this is like I just kept feeling that conviction towards what happened when I was younger, like right around 2017. And I walked up to him after pause, and I didn't expect because this guy goes everywhere, so I did not expect him to remember my name from Adam. um, but so yeah, I walk over to him and I shake his hand, and he looks at me, and he like kind of cocks his head a little bit, and I was like, "Sir, I just wanted to come over here and tell you like I did some things that were kind of offensive towards you a while back." And I understand that you might not remember who I am because I was young then and I look completely different. I am completely different. So I was like, I know this is going to sound really random, but I'm really sorry. And he like reached in and pulled me in and he said, Adam, I'm happy that you're home.
Wow.
And I was like, he remembers my name. Like, how is that even possible? This guy's seen, like, maybe not actually, but, like, probably millions of people since the last time I talked to him.
So did you have interactions before with him?
Yeah, but not fully. So he called me out in church back when I was younger, and he read my mail 100%. And by that, I mean, like, he was like, somebody in here is going through addictions and all that. And back then when I was a kid, I was like, nobody knows this. Nobody knows anything about me. And he was like, somebody in here is going through this and God's trying to get your attention. He's looking around the room and he's like, stand up if this has to do with you. And I was like, I'm going to let other people stand up first.
Right.
So these other people start standing up. And then right as I see this dude standing up, like right next to me, I stand up before him because I was like trying to be in the midst. And he looked at me and pointed at me and he was like, what's your name? I was like, I'm Adam. He was like, come down here and stand in front real quick. I was like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening. So this is how church was back in the day.
Yeah, I remember
it was
that.
calling out, man. And he told me literally everything that was going on in my life. And I was like, how does this guy know this? And I was looking back at my cousin Carrie like, you told him everything. And low key, like, she didn't tell him one word just for that little side note. It was full on God. And yeah, that was pretty much the only big interaction that I had with him.
And he remembered your name from that.
He remembered my name from that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So fast forwarding now, well, first of all, that whole situation dealt with shame, and that's what ended up putting me out of church. Like, not putting me out. That's why I backslid. And I was like, this person is a very anointed man. Everybody knows this guy. So there's no way I'm going back to that church. And like after I said and did the offensive thing.
So was it something you blasted on Facebook or something?
It was.
Okay.
It was definitely something I blasted on
All
Facebook.
right.
And it was so minor. Like, now that I look back, it's like, Adam, what were you doing, dude? Like I had a little bit of, like, things about it. I'm not going to get too much into that because it really was so minor. It's like just throw it in the past, Adam.
Right.
But I had to deal with submission to him.
Right. You were feeling rebellious, and so you acted out.
Yeah, exactly. And man, I'm pretty sure you probably remember that. Maybe.
I'm positive I know who you're talking about, but I'm not. Yeah. I don't know if I remember the exact. I do remember though when you came in, and like there was like you got a massive deliverance, and it must have been that night.
Yeah. So it's gonna sound so minor, but I'm just gonna throw it out there because that's what this is for. So I was I was in leadership. I was at that point doing like youth leadership, not like over the whole church, but like youth leadership and like college kids and things like
Right.
that. And it's gonna sound so like so silly, um, but in submission to my leadership. So I come from a military background. You came from military.
Yeah.
So I know now that I look back, I'm like, all right, I understand why these things happen. It had to deal with me shaving my face, and I had asked that person why I had to shave my face in order for me to be like where I was in church and like what I was doing, and church being the building, because back then I didn't look at it for what church really is.
Right.
So I went against that, and I was like, you know what, this is ridiculous. I want to grow my beard out. I'm at the point now to where I can do that. So I started growing my beard out, and I was like, men grow their beard out. Why can't I do it? And then I heard that the reason, like, people were trying to like kind of like sidestep me with it. They were like, one person said, you know, the reason why we shave our face is so people could see the glory of God on your face. And I came back at them like, oh, did Moses have a shaved face?
Right.
And because at that time I started getting a little bit more intelligent with the words, so I was like, yeah, this sounds fishy. But I realized that it was submission to my leadership that took me backsliding to figure that out. And yeah, for the longest time I was like, hey, I'm not even gonna be welcome back there. And like I just said, I went to this person just recently, and he welcomed me back and with open arms, and even like called out my name. So I was like, this there's no way that it's not anything but God.
Right.
So
I just want to take a moment and just to clarify, we don't believe it's wrong for men to have beards.
no.
We just have people who serve in a leadership capacity here at Antioch. The men typically have a clean shaven face because that's just something they ask for us to do if we're serving in a leadership role. But we don't think there's anything wrong with having beards or anything like that. I just wanted to clear that up.
Exactly, and that's what I ended up figuring out, and that's why I was saying it's so ridiculous now that I look back at it, and yeah, and I started looking at it over time. I was like, you know what, the military had me shave my beard. Why didn't I yell at them?
Right.
You know? And it was the same thing. Like, if you're in a leadership role, this is what you got to do, man.
Right.
You know, like, it was different reasons in the military.
It's
but
more
yeah.
or less an outward show of
Yeah.
the fact that you're submitted to somebody over you,
Right.
more or less.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know you were in the military.
Yeah, Marine Corps.
Really?
Yeah.
When when were you going to tell us about that?
So, you know what's funny is this time that I came back to church, I was for the longest time so full of myself because I was a Marine, and I always tried to throw that in a lot of people's faces. So now I don't look at myself like that. I look at myself as the man of God who I am.
Right.
And not for the position that I held when I was in the military or anything that has to do with that. When people ask me, it's like, yeah, Super Fire. But like,
So when did you join the Marines?
I joined the Marines back in like 2006.
Really?
Yeah. That was
Golly, man.
yeah.
So before you even started coming to church at all?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And actually, low key. All right. So this is another part.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Let's do it. So I'm in the military, and I'm going through all this like stress, like muck in my life, while I'm in the military. And I actually ended up getting, I'm just going to overview the military real quick. So military was great. Like the whole idea of everything was awesome. I have nothing bad to say about the military, to be honest with you. However, I had a lot of outside stuff going on. And like I said, my dad was still kind of like the way he was before. So,
Man, you are older than I thought.
yeah. Um, I'm an old man.
We're actually like, it seems like we might be close to the same age.
That might be right there, bud. But yeah. So I ended up getting in this like depressive state while I was in the military, like right towards the end, and it got so bad that I ended up sitting on top of. This is kind of how my cousin came into play. So I was sitting on top of a pull-up bar, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with this, and I was ready to put myself out, man. I was ready to hang myself on the pull-up bar. Yeah, I was sitting up there, and my phone started ringing, and I was like, sitting there talking to God, but not really like willing to listen to what he had to say. I just wanted to like say my piece, and I was like, you know, I'm just done with my life right now. And my phone rang. I ignored it. My phone rang again, and it was like, who is trying to get a hold of me right now? Like of all the times, like my phone hasn't rang like barely at all while I was in the military, and then out of nowhere it starts going off. And I look down at my phone, and it's my cousin Carrie, and she's like, Adam, whatever you're doing, stop.
Wow.
And I didn't want to. I was like, dude, you're on a whole nother level. She was like, no, I was praying, and I felt like God wanted me to tell you that. Just stop.
That's amazing.
So, low key, that was miracle number one.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
But at that time, I didn't see it for a miracle. I was like, you know, my cousin loves me.
Right.
So I was like blind to what was actually going on.
This is before you really had a whole lot of exposure to God, right?
Exactly, yes.
So how long were you in the Marines?
I was only in for 5 years.
Active duty?
Yeah, active duty. I was a field radio operator.
Did you go to the desert?
No, I did not go to the desert.
Oh, well, you got lucky there.
Yeah. But I did a lot of things in the communication field that were just like overwhelming, and it was that mixed with my life, and then me, like I said, I was still kind of not smoking weed, but I was still drinking and having sex like a lot, especially in the Marine Corps. That was like, that's also another reason why I don't really bring it up as much now, but that was all that was just impacting me all at once. And I was in my head, I was like, I know I'm supposed to be better than this, but like low key, none of these people know where I came from. So I'm just me. And yeah, my cousin was like, well, when you get back home, I want you to come to church. And I was like, yeah, right. But yeah, and that's kind of where I started getting the hints that I needed to go into church.
You were just gonna glide right past that, bro.
I was, bro. I honestly, I don't. As of this, I keep saying this time around, but like it is really this time around.
Yeah.
This time around has been absolutely insane how God has worked in my life. So we're gonna skip past the military now.
Okay.
So
I just wanted before we skip past it,
right.
5 years, early 2000s,
yeah.
and you never got deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq.
No.
Wow, that's really amazing, man.
Yeah. it definitely was. But parts of it had to do with, so when we were getting ready to get deployed, I ended up getting in a bad bar fight, and I ended up going to the brig. And when I went,
well, there it is.
there it is. Um, so that ended up holding me back from going when my unit went, and that's also where a lot of that depression kind of hit in.
Okay.
Because then I started feeling like a failure, 100%. And I was like, you know what, my dad was right. Like this, I'm not this guy that can accomplish things the way that other people accomplish things, and I was like just kind of handing the devil over everything, and I was like, go ahead, you use all this, devil, and
right.
you know, and just
you were giving him the ammunition.
Yeah, literally, that's a good one. So after that, I came back. We'll skip forward because now we're talking about 2017.
Yeah, we've covered.
I backslid.
Yeah.
So
you were I pulled you way off track, and you were about to launch into talking about how you wound up getting into a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
So that's where we were a while ago.
So yeah. So I got in a relationship with someone at church. I was like, this has got to be a God-given relationship. This person was like head in, so I was like, yes, I'm finally with someone that could keep me on track. And then that person ended up kind of, I guess, backsliding as well. And they just like disappeared out of my life. Like, we were going out one day and then just no talking to anybody, her parents, anything, just disappeared. And I was
Did
like,
her parents come to church too?
Yeah.
And they all disappeared?
No. Her parents are still even here.
Oh, okay.
To this day. Yeah, when that happened, I went also, that was another thing that hit me again, and I was like, maybe I'm not good enough for any of these people. Maybe I'm not good enough to have a wife here and all these other things. And then right then I came to God, and this is probably one of the biggest last moments of me being here at Antioch. I was like, God, if you have me to be with someone, show me who that is. And he showed me in a dream. Like, I fell asleep later on that night, literally the night that I prayed that. And he showed me in a dream a Hispanic woman with one African American child and then one child that looked like me and her mixed. And I was like, who is this person? And I'm like trying to think of all the, like, you know, Congress and everything else. I'm like, have I ever even met this person? And it just was like a blank thing in my head. And at the same time, I was like, you know, I can't have kids, so maybe I adopted these kids. And I just let that kind of slide past for a long time, and I had that. I wrote all that down. Back then I used to write everything down and draw it. I'm really big into art. So I ended up drawing this and writing it down, that there was this Hispanic woman that was at the front, and this is the crazy thing. So she's at the front of our altar here, but when I looked around everywhere, it looked like everything was newer. So I didn't have any idea what that meant back then. And I was like, you know, I ended up backsliding. And
this is around 2017?
Yeah. So 2017, 2018, I backslid pretty much right after that. That's when all that stuff happened with that guy that I was talking about earlier. And
why do you think you headed out? at that point?
I started feeling worthless again.
Just because of shame and everything?
Yeah, it had everything to do with shame. So I ended up leaving, and keep that dream in your head for a moment. So I saw the altar. The altar looked newer, and I had no idea what that meant. I saw these kids, and I thought in my head, like, maybe me and this woman adopted these kids or whatever. And I thought it was weird that the one kid looked like me. And I was like, yeah. Back then, I was younger. I was like trying to look really deep into it. So it never worked out that way. So I ended up backsliding. I got with a girl for a number of years outside of church because I had given up on that dream. I was like, this isn't going to happen. This girl's interested in me, and she drinks and smokes and everything. So, like, me backsliding, I went back to that and went back to partying, doing all that all over again. And I got to a point where the lady that I was with outside of church ended up we were extremely sexual, and we were doing like a bunch of like weird stuff. I'm not even gonna get into that, but like my one of my really good friends outside of church ended up having sex with her while I was outside of the house that we were living in. And I walked into the room to them doing that, and I was like, man, that hit me like a plunge of bricks.
I'll bet.
And I was like, man, I really feel worthless now. Like, I thought I felt worthless before. Like, you guys really made me feel this way. So I did what I always did and drank more.
You ended the relationship.
Yeah, I left. And you know what's funny is, and I knew immediately that it was God. I looked at both of them, and in my head, like, the inner Marine came out, and I was like, destroy these people. And because my feelings were just beaten down at that point. And yeah, so I was doing nothing but seeing red, but then I felt a voice in me literally saying, Adam, just leave. And I was like, all right. So I turned around, I started walking down the hallway, super angry. And I'm like, what am I doing now? I'm going to turn around because I'm going to take care of this. And I turned back around. As soon as I turned back around, it felt like a door like smacked in my face, and I heard the same voice, Adam, just leave. You this is not worth it for you. And I was like, all right. So I left, and low key, that was God talking to me and telling me like get out of there, dude. But then I did what I was doing before and went out and smoked to try to get myself faded off of that, and drank. And when I drank, I went to Rural Farms because I didn't want to stay at that house anymore.
Of course.
And I couldn't be around either one of them. Like, it's like the one person that I was talking to all the time, like my best friend. And the chick that I shouldn't say chick, but because I know people take that different ways.
It's been said on here before. Don't worry.
So
I appreciate the fact that you corrected yourself.
Yeah, because I know
and all the ladies listening appreciate it too.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry.
You are a changed man, man.
I am. But yeah, I went to Rural Farms. I sat there in the parking lot. I just went to the liquor store before I went into that room, so I had a full bottle of Maker's Mark. It was like a fifth, so it was a decent amount of alcohol,
right?
And I sat outside of Rural Farms with the air conditioning on in my car and just drank pretty much the entire fifth.
Wow.
And I was plastered sitting outside of Rural Farms, and people started getting worried for me. There was like 3 couples that came up to me. It might have only been one over and over, but I remember hearing
Right.
voices. So I was like, it felt like 3 couples came up to me, and they were like, you know, God doesn't want this for you. And,
Really?
And kept
People you didn't know.
People I had no idea who they were. And this other person came up to me and was like, hey man, like you look like you're in a kind of a bad spot tonight. And I was like, bro, you have no idea what I've been through tonight. And I'm crying to this person. I'm just like letting
You don't even know them?
Yeah, no.
Wow, that's
no,
crazy.
No, I'm completely out of it. And I just keep remembering hearing people like tell me like I should go to church. I could go to their church if I want, or I could do whatever. Just seek God, and I kept hearing that over and over. And finally I fell asleep and I woke up to this, and I was like, and I looked up, and there was a state trooper right next to my window, and he was like, hey, buddy. And I looked over at my car, and I looked down at my lap, and the fifth is like, it's super low at that point, and the bottle's still open. I look over at my car again, realize that my car's running because of the AC.
Oh, wow.
And I tried being slick, and I was like, how you doing, sir? And I went to press the button to turn my car off, and he was like, sorry, man. I understand you might be having a really bad night, but you definitely just turned your car off. And I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, can you do me a favor? Step out. I'm going to skip over that. I ended up going through DUI because of that
They
situation.
arrested you?
Oh, yeah. They arrested me.
Man.
And I was an extremely easy person to arrest because I was just already so down that I was like, jail might be the one thing that saves me right now.
Man. You're like, well, I mean, everything else bad has happened today. This is just a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I ended up getting arrested. On the way there to the police station, I didn't get like locked up or anything. He just took me in for fingerprints, sat me down, talked to me. He was like, this guy's been really cool. He's been talking to us about everything. He had a really bad situation that happened tonight, you know, and all that. And on the way to the police station, though, this officer was looking at me, and he was like, you know, this is going to sound like a really messed up time period for me to tell you this, but I think that God's trying to get your attention.
Really?
And I was like, why is everybody keep talking to me about God?
Man.
Everybody's talking to me about God. So after that happened, I ended up reaching back out to my cousins. It was right around Christmas time in 2024. So like literally like a year and a half ago. And maybe not even a year and a half ago. But I ended up reaching out to my cousin, and it was the first Christmas in a very, very long time that I spent with my mom and my younger brother, which I love my family. My mom was like, Adam, you know, you gotta fix yourself, man. She wasn't telling me like really too much about God, but she was like, you just gotta turn this around. And when I talked to Carrie, she was like, you know, we're coming to we're coming to church over at Antioch. I think it was like the next weekend after I had talked to her. She was like, we would like it if you came. And I told her, I was like, oh man, like, I do not think that I'm going to be welcome. And on top of that, like, I am nowhere near the person I was when I was at Antioch before. She was like, no, Adam, you're broken.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, exactly. And I ended up going and
So that was Christmas 2024.
yeah,
And you actually came back on like the Christmas service, right?
yeah.
I remember, man.
So
Because let me tell you something.
it was actually like November sometime in November, the first time I came back.
It was sort of festive, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Look, because you're one of the ones that I mean, I don't know the first time I saw you, but there's always been something about you. We kind of just always connected every time I saw you here.
Yeah.
So I always remember the time we ran into each other in the Wawa parking lot.
Yeah.
It's just weird things like that.
Yeah, man.
And so every time you showed up, I would just be lifted by it, you know what I mean?
And I was lifted by you. I was like, this guy's so cool. He's so chill. And yeah, I ended up going to that service. I think it was like a baby dedication or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was something along
because that's
those
probably
lines.
around the time Judah was born.
Yeah, I think it actually was when Judah was born that the baby dedication for him.
Judah would be Jalen's oldest son.
Yeah. And Jalen and Esther.
Yeah.
What an amazing couple, dude. So I ended up coming to that service, and Carrie's husband, Charles, came up to me, and he asked me if I wanted to go up front and pray, and I was like, you know, I'm kind of comfortable with Antioch, so I was like, yeah, sure, let's go up. And like, what's the worst that could happen at this point?
Right.
And I get up there, and he starts like telling me, like, Adam, everything, God is willing to change your entire life. God is willing to show you the miracles that you've been wanting to see this entire time. And I'm just letting him talk. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm receiving it. What you're saying, at least. And he was like, God can deliver you from your addictions. He can deliver you from your way of thinking. He can take you away from all those things and put you in a progression that you didn't even think you could have. And I was like, man, he's kind of like speaking into my mind. And I'm like, all right, you're getting kind of deep, Charles. But he then he ends it off by telling me, you know, Adam, you're gonna be the prophet of your family, and God's gonna put you in a fast track. The only thing that you have to do is be obedient to God. And you know, faith is easy, I feel, but obedience is
Yeah.
that's I was like, it was really deep. So I was like, man, obedience, that's a hard one. Okay, I'll try, but I don't know if I can. And God gave me the grace, and he so at that service I was like, well, where do I start? And Jalen was like, well, I'm going to get you to meet this guy, Brother Upchurch, David Upchurch.
But you wound up getting rocked in that service.
Yeah, dude.
I remember,
dude.
your clothes were sopping wet after that.
Yeah. Well, right before that, I was a raging alcoholic, dude. So all that's just like bleeding off of me, and Because even after I got arrested, I was still drinking.
Right.
If I'm fully honest, I would love to say that I stopped that night, but I didn't. I was still drinking and still smoking weed.
You mean after that service?
No, not after that
Okay.
service. So I took his words very, very seriously because he was speaking directly to me, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try as best as I can." And I told God, I was like, "God, I don't know how you're gonna do this, especially in me, because I've never been able to do this my entire life. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna do everything I can to show you that you're number one, and you're who I want to have conversations with. You're the one that I've seen miracles done in other people's lives. I want that now, and I know that you can do it." And I was like, I was kind of like the squirrel looking for the nut. I was like, I don't even know where to start. And my cousin was like, that was when he was like, I'm gonna get you to meet this guy, Brother Upchurch, David Upchurch. And
David Upchurch is also episode 4 on the Witness podcast.
Yeah, dude, that's how I found out that he was a Steeler. I was like,
Oh,
bro,
yeah.
that's crazy. But dude, when he introduced me to David, I was still kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna work or not. And David was like, just come to CR. You don't have to do anything. Just come. Just be there. And I was like, all right. So I came and I listened. And I listened for like a solid month. And he had been praying for me about my deliverance to alcohol and everything. And low key, that was like, God had already delivered me that day when I came back to church.
So you hadn't drank it since that day?
Since that day, yeah.
Wow.
Now, in my head, I'm like, I'm still smoking weed. I still have my medical card and all this other stuff. And David was like, Adam, I just want you to take this a step at a time. Just like God delivered you from alcohol, he's going to do the same thing for these other things. I was like, dude, I've been smoking for the longest time, literally 11.
Yeah, since you're 11.
I was like, there's no way that I'm.
And I think it's something to pause here for a minute. I mean, I don't know about I don't know how it is for other people. I've struggled with nothing serious, but I smoked cigarettes for a long time.
Same.
And the thing about it is like, I don't. It's hard to like put this into words, but smoking cigarettes or any of those addictions that you have,
Yeah.
whether it's weed or cigarettes or
Yeah.
or drinking, it kind of becomes a part of your identity.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to picture yourself without it.
Yeah.
I almost want to say that, and this is going to sound so stupid, but I almost want to say, like, for me, the cigarettes were kind of like friends.
Yeah.
Like, it was something that I could turn to
Yeah.
when I just needed to relax. That was the thing I had. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
100%.
And for me to picture myself going through life without it, that was a difficult thing to try to imagine.
Yeah.
So when you're saying like you've been smoking weed since you're 11 years old,
Yeah.
to try to imagine your life without that, you can't really.
It felt impossible. So Brother David just kept coming up to me each week because we have CR each week on Wednesday. Probably, if any of y'all don't know about CR, I'm not even going to say anything other than just come, because God does amazing things with that place.
Yeah, we have talked about that episode 4 with David Upchurch. I think it's episode 5 with Bruce Ellenberger and episode 6 with Alan McGuckian. They all have mentioned Celebrate Recovery. And before we close, I'll let you give a real plug for Celebrate Recovery on here too, because
Cool.
it is an important thing I think for most people to experience.
Especially this day and age, man.
Yeah.
So anyways, I start going to Celebrate Recovery with David Upchurch and them, and um, I'm there. I've now been delivered of alcohol. I'm feeling great. I'm still smoking weed, but I've been delivered of alcohol. Brother Upchurch is like, Adam, just take this one day at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time, And I was like, all right, I'm definitely gonna listen to you on that because there's no way I'm gonna stop smoking weed like that. I'm taking everything one step at a time, one day at a time. At first, I'm not saying anything. I'm just listening to other people and their testimonies, and I see that God's doing these miracles in other people's lives. And again, like this time, I'm really paying attention to it, and I'm feeling, because of my deliverance from alcohol, I was like, I didn't think I would be able to be delivered from alcohol. So, especially as much as I was drinking. I was drinking on the regular, like a fifth of Jack every day.
Wow.
On top of me smoking all the weed that I was smoking, which was an obscene amount too. And finally, God spoke to me, and He was like, Adam, I want you to talk today. I want you to go in there and stop being quiet. Like just tell them about yourself a little bit. And that's when I told him, I have my medical card, and I don't really believe that, weed is something that's really holding me back from God or whatever. And I'm trying to give excuses why I'm not going to stop smoking weed. And I started telling them like the quote unquote medical reasons why I was doing it, which is a crack of it. But I'm telling them, I have sleeping issues, so I do it to sleep. When I get angry, I have like certain PTSD moments from the military, so it helps me with those situations, and it helps me to calm down. And I'm listing all these things, and this is kind of an important thing that I'm saying right now because it's also the reasons why everything stopped. So I ended up meeting this lady in CR who also goes to our church, and I was like, man, her voice is she would speak in English for like the steps and things like that in CR, and then she would translate it in Spanish. I was like, man, her voice is so hot. And then I started paying attention to. Don't worry, guys, it's my wife. So 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 I start really paying attention to the way that she looks, and I'm like, man, she looks a lot like this chick that I dreamed about back in 2017. And I was like, still kind of like curious about the two kids. So I had asked a few people if she had any kids or anything like that, and they were like, yeah, she's got two of them. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And in my head, I'm thinking she's Hispanic. She probably has two Spanish kids. And which she does, but they just so happen to perfectly match the description of the two kids that I talked about earlier.
Wow, man.
One being African American and one being Max, who looks pretty much like me and her. To the T of what I saw.
But it's not yours.
Yeah, correct, not mine.
That's crazy.
So in my head, I'm like, this is perfect because I can't have kids, and going off of what I've learned before, I can't have kids. So I was like, yeah, this is definitely the chick that I'm supposed to be with. Whether I'm supposed to be married to her or whether I'm supposed to be whatever, that was the prayer that I prayed. So I'm going off of that, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to build a relationship with this lady, and I start talking to her there. She's like just like telling me words of confidence and things like that as we're going through, and I get to the point to where I figure out, that she really wants to hang out with me. I really want to hang out with her and learn more about each other. So we did that, and she was trying to be like as respectful as possible. She was like, "We should go bowling sometimes," and I just kept ignoring. I was like, "No, I'm not going bowling." But so so one night we ended up going out to like just walk around and pray for people. And for some reason both of us were really hungry to like help people that were real far deep, which is kind of like where we, had to do with the whole CR thing. So we were like, let's go around to like gas stations and find people to pray for at these gas stations. And we would find other people who were also addicted and going through it, and um, people who were dealing with like heroin addictions, people who were dealing with like relationship issues, all that stuff. And we were going around and praying for people. And as we kept doing that, we realized that we both really like doing that together. And that was pretty much our way of hanging out. We were like,
No kidding.
yeah. And finally, I was like, you know what, Adam, go out of your way and see if this girl wants to take it a step further. So I told her, and she was like, yeah, I don't know. And I was like, God, I thought this was the chick. There I go again. But that's just the way that I talk sometimes.
It's all good. You did your blanket apology.
Yeah, yeah. I thought this was the lady god, and he was like, "It is Adam. Keep talking to her." So I kept talking, and we built more of a relationship. And she was like, in her head, she was like, "I'm not gonna go out with this guy. He still smokes weed. He's talking about all the time about how he smokes weed and how he's not gonna stop." And in my head, I was like, I'm not gonna stop smoking weed for some girl, because like I just got destroyed by a girl,
Right.
so I'm not doing that. And we just kept building a friendship, and we became best friends through praying. And one day she looked at me, and I was like, hey, do you want me to give you a ride back to your house? She was like, yeah, sure. Um, so I took her back, and as we were driving back, she looked at me and she goes, Adam, you talk about how you smoke weed for your sleep. You smoke weed because of PTSD. You smoke weed because of anger issues and all these other things, and you really defend it. And then she hit me with this number, dude. She goes, "Do you know that all the things that you smoke weed for, I'm not going to ever tell you to stop doing what you're doing, because I know that everything comes one step at a time. But do you know that all the things you're doing that for, God could do for you?"
Wow.
And I was like, man, she hit me with that. I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And that night, me being Adam, I went back to my house, and I was like, man, God really, I should be praying to God instead of doing this. And I looked up at God that night in my car, while I was smoking. I was like, God, if you can take this away from me, then take it away and help me to never look back at it. Because me, myself, I've been doing this since I was 11 years old, and I know I can't do this alone.
That's awesome, man.
And the next day, it's so cool how God works, man. So the next day, I go into work, and without even thinking about it, my usual schedule when I would go to work and things like that, I would wake up in the morning, smoke, go to work, and if I'm being real, I would smoke throughout the day, like random breaks that I would take at work, and then get off work, smoke again, and pretty much do it throughout the night. I was smoking like a decent amount of weed every day, and I woke up the next morning after I prayed that prayer, and it wasn't even anything too deep. It was just me telling God, like, take this. And I woke up, and without me thinking about it, I didn't smoke before I went to work. Actually, because I was running late, I was like, I can't.
Wow.
So I ran late to work, and I just went straight there. So keep in mind, I didn't smoke that morning. I go throughout the day, and for some reason that day, my day's super busy. So I don't smoke all day. And then I get off work, and I'm like, all right, this is the time that I usually smoke again. And my dad calls me up, and he's like, hey, Adam, I need help with this. So now my days are taking me away from it. The fact that I was going with my dad, and I had already told him that I was going back to church and everything, I was trying to show that I was doing all the right things. So I was like, you know what, I can't smoke before I go to my dad, because then he'll just see that and be like, there's old Adam.
Right.
And so I didn't do it then. And then by the time I got home, I was just overly tired. So I would fall back asleep. Next day, wake up late again. I'm like, so not actually late to work, but late enough to where I couldn't do anything. And it went on like that for 2 weeks straight.
That's amazing.
And then I look back, and I'm like, man, I haven't smoked weed in 2 weeks. And it wasn't even me thinking about it.
That
like,
is
I didn't.
amazing, man.
And that's just how God works. He does these things without you even realizing it. He's getting you to go away from these things. And next thing you know, I'm delivered. I'm completely delivered. And I'm like, you know what? It's been 2 weeks now. I mean, what's another week? So I kept going, and Brother David was like, Adam, when was the last time that you smoked? And I was like, dude, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks now. And he was like, wow, what happened? Like, what got you to stop? I was like, honestly, Velma was talking to me, and she was like, Adam, all the things that you smoke weed for, you know, God can do that for you without you having to spend a dime. So, like, one, yeah, it helped me with my finances, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not what I was even looking at it for. I was like, you know, God literally made it so my schedule was so filled that I couldn't even smoke. So, yeah, now it's been pretty much like a solid year of me not smoking weed.
That is amazing,
and
man.
yeah, and that's, you know, the deliverances are just like, I remember when I was first, like, literally first coming back here, I would look at those deliverances and be like, wow, like, this is so crazy. But, you know, the things that he's done outside of that are just even more amazing.
Right.
So I'm gonna jump forward from that.
Before you say that, before you go further, I want to just stop and say, like, when it comes to deliverances, I feel like we kind of get hung up on looking at one particular package, like
Yeah.
that moment in the altar
Yeah.
where everything just gets where you just get everything just gets emptied out at the altar and you never touch it again, or
Yeah.
some traumatic event causes you to turn away. We get caught up on the different methods, but clearly God has his own way of doing things, and it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And he delivered you from alcohol with one method,
Yeah.
but weed was something completely different.
Yeah.
You just kind of like didn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
Like you didn't even
exactly.
realize you weren't doing it.
Exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And I think it's important that we see that. And I also wanted to draw attention to the prayer that you prayed to God, because I feel like coming to God with an honest approach,
Yeah.
that means everything to him. It reminds me of the I hate to call it a story because I believe it really happened, but the story in the Bible where the guy, his son is possessed by a demon and they can't get the demon cast out.
Yeah.
And Jesus looks at him and he's like, "Do you think I can do this? Do you think I can deliver your son?" And the man says, "I believe, help thou mine unbelief." So
Yeah.
he admitted that, I think you can do it, but I just don't know if you're going to do it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and he admitted that to God, and Jesus appreciated that
Yeah.
and delivered his son.
Yeah.
And
It's the
your
same
story,
thing,
it reminds me of that, man.
Yeah.
You were
exactly.
straight up with God, and he was like, "All right, I'm going to do it, man."
Yeah. The thing is, when I came back, I started looking at God in a whole different way. Like I looked at God before, like he could do all these things for all these other people because their lives are already good, and they're already like turned around. They're already doing like all the right things, and he really showed me this time around with. When I say this time around, it's with my own thought process. It was me, not God. God could have done
Of
this
course,
back then,
right.
but just my thought process during that time was completely different. And I mean, obviously now I came to the bottom of myself. That's really what really fired me up with God was I have nothing else. At that point, something that I kind of skipped over was I was homeless. So after I left that house and I went to rural farms, I didn't go back to that house because I knew that one, sin was there. I know that all this negative thinking and things like that would come from that house, even though in my inner thought I was like, if I go back there, I have a place to live. I have all these things. But I was like, no, I'm not going back there. I'm going to stay as obedient as I can to God. And I did that, and even with me, being homeless, I was sitting in my car and I was like thinking in my head, like, even though I'm homeless right now, God still has provided me shelter in every way. I've never, praise God, I've never had a point to where I had to like truly like live out in the streets and all that, and I praise him for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my alone time with God. I didn't look at it like I was homeless. I looked at it like this is me and God in this car.
Right.
And he's working through me with all these things through this car, and we're just going through it together one day at a time. And
How long did you live in your car?
I lived in my car for 3 months.
Wow.
Like solely 3 months. And the cool thing about that was I was still working. I praise God for that too.
Yeah.
But I would stay at my job and sleep at my job, and my boss ended up coming up to me and he was like, "Adam, I was looking at the cameras and I noticed that you get here really early." And I was like, "Yeah." He was like the night before early. I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, well, I figure if I stay here, then in the morning I'm definitely going to be here earlier than everybody else. Like, there's nothing bad with that." and it also kept me away from people I shouldn't be around. So I I just kept doing that for a little bit until he was like, now that I see that you're doing that, I'm gonna put you in a hotel. I stayed in a hotel for like 2 weeks. It was like 2.5 weeks, and that was purely off of my bosses doing James Applegate at Apple Signs. He's this guy is so humble and just a wonderful guy. He ended up helping me and making it so I could take showers and things like that, which I was so happy about. And my manager, Chris, ended up telling me about how a lady had passed away that was living in his rented basement. So I was like, oh, that's kind of creeper, but I I need a place to stay.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, it's right here in Glen Burnie, like right over by the airport. And my job was in Millersville, so it's like very close to each other. So I was like, that's perfect. It's a perfect location. So I go there and I live in his basement for a year. And part of that time period, I ended up getting I ended up getting married to Velma, the lady that I was talking about from CR.
Right. Awesome.
And Velma was originally staying out of a place called Sarah's House, which is like government helped living or whatever. And that place was a wreck. I told her, I was like, I'm gonna get you out of here. Be her knight in shining armor. And I ended up helping her out with that, and told her, you can come stay at my apartment. It's just a 1-bedroom studio, but it's at least better than where you're at.
Absolutely.
So she ended up coming there. So it was me, her, the 2 kids, Max and Leah, staying out of a 1-bedroom in the beginning. And well, let me tell you what, if you ever want to get close to your family, rent a 1-bedroom studio. No it was overwhelming. And we were just continuously praying to God that he would help us to get out of there. I didn't think that there was really a way with the way how much money rent was at different places. And I was like, dude, if I'm paying for this, there's no way I'm going to be able to rent any of these places. And my boss was like, my manager was like, hey, the place upstairs is a 2-bedroom with a sunroom added to it as well. You could move up there if you want. And I was like looking at it like a blessing from God, because I was like, yeah, anything to get away from this 1-bedroom. So we ended up moving up there, and she was like telling me like, we need to get away from this situation while we were in the 1-bedroom. And I was like, yeah, but if he's going to help me out and it's something I can afford, then we'll do that. And without even asking God, I was just like, I'm going to do this. And I did it thinking that I was helping the situation. Low key, because I didn't ask God. This is another way that I realized that I needed to really start pushing obedience even more, because as you grow with God, you realize how important obedience is.
Right.
And God showed me that I wasn't obedient. He ended up showing us that the place that we moved into ended up having mold issues. My BGE bill was $830 a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for a 2-bedroom, bro.
Whoa.
Like, it's outrageous. So,
That's as much as rent.
yeah.
I mean, golly.
Yeah. So I'm paying this rent, which is like $1,500 a month, and then that 830 on top of that, plus my car payment, plus all blah, blah,
That's
blah, blah, blah.
incredible.
And it's like, yeah, this is overwhelming. But it showed me what I could afford. Praise
Yeah.
God. So we're praying and we're like, God, show us a place that we can move to. And I'm thinking another rental or whatever. Because in my mind, I'm like, there's no way my credit's good enough to get a house or anything like that. And I just keep hearing the word, just wait, wait, wait. And I'm simply doing that. I'm just waiting. And right in the middle of pause, actually, that pause that I was talking about earlier, we ended up finding out that Vilma was pregnant.
Wow.
And I was like, there's no way that this is happening.
That's huge.
So it was like a sidetrack, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is a 100% miracle.
Absolutely. No way around it.
Yeah, dude. And because of everything that was happening with the whole waiting period and with the time period that we found out, that whole like pause thing and all that, we were like, you know, if this is a girl, we're gonna name her Selah. And we ended up finding out that it was a girl, and that is what her name will be when she is born.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. Bro.
Yeah. So that right there was another thing.
When did she do?
July 17th, but we've heard a few things through the grapevine of prayer that it might be earlier than that.
That's amazing because this episode that we're recording right now is going to be released on July 11th. So
nice.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, so just the fact that she's pregnant is an absolute miracle. And we've given that entire situation to God. And the obedience thing just kept growing because of her pregnancy and everything else. It was just like, okay, we're just going to be obedient, keep being obedient, bring ourselves in every way to make sure that every conversation that we have with anybody and everybody has to do with God and what God wants to do. And we continue doing that. And I was looking online at places, and I seen this place that was like deep in Boonesboro somewhere, and I kept seeing that place pop up, and I was like, oh yeah, like I think God's showing me this. But then I realized that wasn't the voice of God. That was just me, like looking at this house, and I was like, it's small. I could probably do something with that. And we went out there to look at it, and I told God, I was like, and this is how easy it is with God too. I was like, God, if this is not the right place for us to be, give me, and I always do these things. It's so funny because it's like ridiculous, but I do it, and God ends up showing me. But I was like, God, if this is not the right place for us to be, show me 3 different things that make that very obvious to me. And at that point, I'm announcing it. So I'm letting her know that I said this to God, and I've always kind of been that way with God, which is funny. But we end up getting out to that place. It turns out it's out in the middle of the country. It's beautiful. But there's like a main highway directly in front of the house. And I was like, we're getting ready to have a kid. That's not too smart.
Strike one.
Yeah, strike one. We go downstairs to the basement and find out that there's like water leaks. And I was like, man, old house water leaks, that's probably not too good either. And I don't know, like I know how to do a lot of things. I'm kind of a handyman, but like when it comes to that kind of stuff, that's like rebuilding certain areas, and it's not for me. Strike 2. And I was like, God, don't let there be a strike three. and I get outside, and Leah, our daughter, ends up walking out to the driveway, and I realize that the driveway itself is a shared driveway with our neighbors. Our neighbors end up being a little, the neighbors that we would have had if we weren't there ended up being kind of racist, which obviously with our household that ain't gonna fly.
That ain't working, right?
At all. So strike three, and I'm like, I accept it. Okay, God, I get it. I really wanted this place, but I get it. And we leave, and I'm like, dude, this is $250,000. This is a cheap price for a house.
Well, you don't find that in Maryland very often.
No. And I start thinking also about the drive that we took to get out there, and I'm like, man, it took us an hour and a half, like almost an hour and 45 minutes to get there.
That's out by like Antietam, right?
Yeah. So like kind of like I think it's what's that? Like around like further than Mount Airy and all that.
Yeah,
like
it's out past Frederick.
Yeah, exactly. Hagerstown, that area.
But it's even past
further
Hagerstown.
It's deep out there, but
borderline Western Maryland,
literally. And I was like, all right, I accept this. We went to look at 2 other houses out there, figured out that that's not our place to be, and I was like,
it is nice. It is nice out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I get back home, and now I'm a little bit discouraged because I was like really hoping for that house to be it. We looked at a few other houses, none of them were it. So we were like, man, I really wish that would have been it. I thought I was listening to God, and realized that it was just me listening to myself with that. And that's also where we had a Bible study that was really like showing us how to listen to the voice of God, of course, right at that same time.
Right.
So I was like, all right. I figured out like a good way on my relationship with God, how to really listen to his voice. And my realtor was like, what do you think about the Eastern Shore? And I was like, actually, I didn't really think about that, but I'm cool with looking out there. She showed us a few houses out there, and I was like, yeah, they're decent, but a little bit of like things that we got to work on and all that stuff because it's older houses. And then we end up coming across this house that's brand new, and I see that it says $235,000 or $230,000. It was this blue house, and it's brand new. And I was like, this has got to be a scam.
Yeah.
Either that or it's a horrible neighborhood.
Right.
So we go out there to look at that place. We ended up being too late to look at that place and went to the place next to it and the place on the other side of that, which this is all on Douglas Street out in Cambridge. And so we're looking at these places, and I'm like, this place is beautiful. I love it out here. And she looks at me and she's like, my wife looks at me and she's like, I like this house, but let's look at the other one. We went over there, and it ended up being more bathrooms and everything, and it was like $235,000. And I was like, well, that's the extra $5,000. But like, I also still don't know about my credit if this is gonna work.
Yeah, how is that possible? $235,000?
Yeah, God.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we end up looking at the other place. It ends up being a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Again, just built last year, brand new, absolutely nothing wrong with it. the neighborhood is like perfectly mixed culture, so it's like all those previous strikes are completely out of the picture. Um, and everyone's just super nice and respectful because it's kind of like that southern feel out there
Yeah.
on the Eastern Shore.
Oh yeah. The
And
land of pleasant living.
yeah, exactly. Um, and directly across the street is a park, which is like perfect for our kids. And literally directly across the street. But it's like a smaller neighborhood, so it's not that many people that go there. It's perfect. Um, and we're talking about it. She's like, Adam, this is the place that I dreamed about, and that's another thing that I'll probably let her eventually talk to you about. Her gifting is dreams, so when she says something like that, it's like, okay, God gave her this, and I'm paying attention to what she's saying, but I'm like, I still don't know if my credit's going to be good enough for me to get this place or anything like that. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. This is way bigger than I ever thought I would
That's
have.
amazing, man.
And yeah, I'll show you after this, but it's ridiculous. And I I was like, babe, we'll give this to God, and we'll see what He says. And as we're leaving, the neighbor looks over and she's like, are you guys gonna be moving in? Of course, my wife's like, yeah, we're looking at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, she's speaking in faith, but I was like, yeah, we're not quite sure yet. I don't know, like if money wise and everything, if I can even afford this or anything. I know that it's like not expensive, but at the same time, with my credit and everything, I don't know how this is gonna work. And like down payment and all that. I'm like, man, feeding our family and taking on the role of providing for everyone already, like was like scraping by.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work out or not. And of course, Velma being Velma was like, I saw it in a dream. So we started praying about that place, and I looked at other places out in Aberdeen because I was like, Brother Upchurch and them live in Aberdeen.
Right.
We're really close to them. They've prayed us through with a lot of things, and they've just been an awesome like backup for us. They're Brother Upchurch and Sister Upchurch are both of our sponsors, so we were like, that would be perfect too. And none of those houses ended up. They all ended up being under contract, and I was like, all right, God, what are you trying to show me? And my realtor was like, Adam, there is a house that's not under contract. And I was like, yeah, where's that at? She was like, Cambridge. And I was like, oh, yeah, that one. And Vilma was like, Adam, I already told you I saw that in a dream. I saw that house. Like, I could feel myself inside of the house in a dream. I was like, yeah, but are you just saying that, or did you really dream it? And she was like, I really dreamed it. So I prayed and kept praying, and all the way to the end of us actually getting that house, we weren't sure if we were going to get it. We had to literally get to the bottom of ourselves again. And we were at the title place, ready to sign everything over. And right before we got there, I had looked at her in the car, and I was like, I feel like this might be a waste of time because we keep being told that we might not be able to get the place. And I was like, you know what? If we go all the way there to the title place, right now at this moment, we don't have very much money at all. We're kind of struggling, and if we don't end up getting this, then I'm gonna pray and say, God, if we're not gonna get this house tonight, we're here for a divine appointment through you. So either way, it was not a waste of time.
Amen.
And we get there, and it takes an extremely long period of time to get to closing. And everyone there's like, yeah, we're probably not going to close today. And I was like, all right. And then my realtor looks at me and she starts talking to me about, asking me about our walk with God. And I was like, the divine appointment. Okay. So I start talking to her, and Velma's talking to her too. And I was like, after everything, I looked at God and I was like, all right, God, we came here for your purpose. And, I did say, if we're not here to close, we're here for a divine appointment and to speak God into somebody else's life, to speak you into somebody else's life. And God spoke to me literally right there in that room and was like, no, Adam, this wasn't just a divine appointment. It was actually who you are now. And I looked at Velma and I was like, God just spoke to me and said, this isn't just the divine appointment. This is who we are as a couple. This is what we were made to do. So this is what we're doing.
Wow,
And she
man,
was
that's
like,
amazing.
she was like, so what are you saying? And I looked at her and I was like, I know it's really late and they're about to tell us to leave, but I think that this is God telling me that we're gonna close on this house. And literally, not literally, so like 30 seconds to a minute later, this lady walks in and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I have some great news to tell you." And I was like, "What's up?" She was like, "You're closing on the house tonight."
Wow.
So that happened, and literally it's just been miracle after miracle.
So you went from living in your car
Yeah.
to owning a house inside of a year and a half.
Yeah.
And also, miraculously, your wife is pregnant.
Yeah. So it's her and the pregnancy, the the situation of also when we went to Cambridge, people, that this is also how I figured out that this was really the will of God, is when we got out there, I was like, God, again, if this is your will, then show us. And we get there, and this is just a quick little story. So we get there, we go to the park across the street, we're letting the kids play, and this Hispanic lady comes to the park as well with her younger daughter. She's across from us, and all she speaks is Spanish. And I was like, "Hey, babe, go talk to her. Like, meet somebody and make a friend." And she starts talking to her about God. And like I said, this is what God's made us to be, and this is how our conversations are going to be no matter what now, because we don't have time to waste anymore.
Amen.
And God has shown that 100%. That's why everything's happened in such a fast track. All these things, all these miracles, all this miraculous stuff.
Your Charles prophesied that to you, that all this was going to be on a fast track.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it's been. And, we get there, she's talking to this lady, and her kid's there, and the lady's having a horrible day. So she said that she usually doesn't go to the park, but today she felt led to go to the park because her and her husband, or baby daddy, whatever you want to call it. I don't know their full situation, but I'm gonna be a little partial 2026 on it. Anyways, they're having a horrible day, and apparently have been having a horrible month or whatever. and they're like at the point to where they feel like they're like falling apart from each other. So that's why she's there at the park. And Velma's just speaking God to this woman. And I was like, keep going, keep going. I don't understand fully everything that they're saying, because when two Hispanic women talk to each other, they start talking really fast, and I can understand a
Yeah.
lot now, which is another miraculous thing. I didn't know any Spanish before a year and a half ago. Like I knew hola
Yeah, right.
and gracias. I used to say gracias, but but I mean now I fully know how to speak, and on on top of that, I understand a decent amount, which is another thing. It's like, man, God has just been doing so many things, and so I end up going away from them for a second to go to the car because I was like, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get water. We're pretty much broke when we get there to Cambridge. So because we've spent all the money that we have to get there
Right.
and to do everything. And get there, I have 4 waters and in the car, and something told me, and we all know who that is, God. Um, speaks to me and tells me grab all 4 waters. And in my head, I'm like, all right, me, my wife, Max, Leah, and I grab all 4 of the waters, not even thinking about the fact that we have nothing to drink inside of our house. We have nothing like food wise or anything, and I have to wait until my next paycheck to be able to get all those things. So, my point in saying all that too is, you know, because I'm with God doesn't mean necessarily that I'm like flowing with money or
Yeah,
anything
right,
like that.
right.
Because that's a big thing that people miss as well. Is it's like, you know, God, the word blessed doesn't necessarily mean that you have all these monies and riches and all these things. Blessed is all those things that I just talked about. The miracles and
Yeah.
everything else. It's literally in the love I get from my family. And just everything God shows me through everyone. But yeah, so I get these 4 waters and I go back to the park. I see these 2 guys that have been playing basketball. They've been continuous the whole time, just sweating bullets, like me the first day I came back.
Yeah.
But for a totally different reason. And I walk over to them. They've been super nice with Max, so I go over to them. I give them 2 of the waters. And they're super grateful, and they're basically are like, dude, we're not used to people just coming up to us and just like handing us something for free. Period. So like, this is really cool that you're doing that, even though it's water. Like, who makes a big deal out of water? And but anyways, I kind of brushed that off a little bit, and I go back over to where Velma is, and she's still speaking to that lady. So I ended up giving that lady one of the other waters, and we shared the last water in between our family. And we kept talking to that lady for like a solid like 2 hours, just purely about God. And I told Velma, I was like, hey, it's getting a little bit later. Tell her that we can walk her back home if she would like. We can do that since she's by herself, and I know that she was going through a situation. I don't want her man to be like an abusive dude. I can go over there and at least like help out a little bit. And she tells her the lady's like super happy to hear that we're okay with doing that. We get to her house, and her husband is somehow not mad at all. He looks over at her and gives her a big hug, and like, I guess now that I look back, I think he was looking at the fact that me and Vilma love each other so much, and we're just like super close. When we speak to people, we show our love out, like we outward, um, whatever you want to call it. We're we're very outward with our love
Right.
towards other people, and uh, like our love together.
PDA.
Yeah, yeah, well, kind of. But so we get over there. We're talking to her husband. We're talking to her, and then they invite us into their house. They invite us to eat dinner. She makes the best food, and low key, like side note, we didn't have food. God provided right
There it is.
and um, we're just continuously talking about God the entire time. And I started like talking to this guy about his work and everything else, guy talk, and it gets a little bit later in the night, and I'm like, hey, I gotta get up to go to work, and we live in Eastern Shore, so it's like I gotta get up pretty early.
Right.
So I gotta get out of here. It's like 11 o'clock by that time, and we go outside of their house, and we're getting ready to walk back to our house, which isn't that far. And the guy looks at me and he's like, "Hey, let me drive y'all back." And I would usually be like, "No, don't worry about it." But since Vilma's like omega pregnant,
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, you know what? I'll think about my wife right here. So yeah, we'll take the ride. So he ends up giving us a ride over to our place. Helps me get all the kids out, and all the kids, like it's 40 of them. It's Max and Leah. But we bring everyone inside the house, and right as I'm going out to say goodbye to him, he's walking over towards me with a case of water, and he looks at me and he tells me, God wanted me to give this to you. And I looked at the case of water, and I thought about the fact that we had no more water in our house, and that we had given the water to those people and only split the one water in between our family. And it started speaking to me very heavily that, like, you know, giving isn't just money. Giving is those waters,
Yeah, it's whatever you've got.
and God giving in abundance back.
That is amazing, man.
And that like broke me down. It was so weird because it's like it's just water, Adam, but it was
No,
more
it's-
than that.
Yeah, it's a glimpse into the mind of God and the way
Yeah.
He sees what we do.
Yeah, especially like I said, walking in obedience really has opened my mind up to that.
And I think that we don't understand, or we don't allow ourselves to go there in our minds, but God wants to view us as His partners
Yeah.
in this thing, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to bring us into a partnership.
Yeah,
He wants us to work with Him,
right.
and He's willing to like take care of us
Yeah,
as we work with Him. And I don't, this is the guy who spoke the entire universe into
Yeah.
existence.
yeah,
And He chooses Adam Day.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like He cares about
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
It's an amazing opportunity, man,
that
to be a part of this.
that kid that never thought that any of this could ever happen, or that like, you know, I was even worth looking at to God. And now God really showing me, you know, Adam, I've been here this whole time.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
All it took was just a little bit of your time looking at me instead of me just looking at you.
Right.
And you know, the thing is, the more in obedience that I've become with God and my wife, because it's not just me, it's our family. It's very important that our family, especially in this day and age, is as obedient as we possibly can towards God and His Word, and just really taking direction from Him, making sure that it's Him, making sure that it's His voice, and just hearing Him 100% has been the one thing that I've been able to really like take out of this whole thing is like, you know, just continue at Him one day at a time. Just like that first day back at church, hear that same word every day.
Yeah.
One day at a time, one day at a time. If you do that, then God will show you. And right now, more than ever, it's a fast track.
It's amazing. That's an amazing story, man.
Thank you, man.
It's really. I guess we've been going for a while, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
No, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much where I am now. And it's just been like, it's literally been miracle after miracle.
I think what you say, one day at a time, that's such an important perspective, because what you're just stacking days. You know,
Yeah.
If we go back to when you stepped away from the weed,
Yeah.
you look back and all of a sudden it had been 2 weeks. You know what I mean? You just stacked up days.
Yeah.
And you didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is when you trust God, you know?
Exactly. Trust, faith, push your faith to the furthest limit that you possibly can, and be as obedient as possible. I ended up going to court. This is just another little thing. And this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to say, but this is definitely not the last thing that he's done. He's done so many things. But this is just another like thing that I looked back at, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was on my way to court, circuit court, to figure out some stuff with my license, and I had a violation of probation because of a situation with my license that had to do with that DUI. It was non-alcohol related, obviously, but I ended up getting put in this position where I had a situation with my license, and I really needed to be at court for this situation. It was at circuit court in Howard County, and we're all the way out in Cambridge. We get out early enough. We're like, all right, yeah, we have plenty of time, blah, blah, blah. Then the oil filter in my car just miraculously is like loose and sprays oil on my car like all over the motor, and my car's just blowing up in smoke.
Oh, no way.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, on the way to court, like this is horrible. So I'm able to get out, tighten it back up and everything, and we end up going to Royal Farms to
Good old Royal Farms.
Get oil, dude. Royal Farms is another place that it's like, that place has spoken measures to me. It's so much more than just a gas station. But so we go there, I get oil, and now we're starting to run behind. And at the time I have Velma, my pregnant wife, driving to court because I can't drive. So she's like worried. She's like, oh my gosh, this, and she starts feeling like it's her fault. And we're both like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. I'm stressing out. So I call an elder, and I'm like, dude, which is another little side note. If you're ever in a situation, call an elder and talk to them about it. They're usually very wise, and they end up telling you the right thing at the right moment. I'm losing my mind in this car. So I was like, we're gonna be late. She's like, yeah, we're definitely gonna be late, super late. And we get back onto 50 to go towards the Bay Bridge. And as we're going out towards the Bay Bridge, there's a bad motorcycle accident with two motorcycles. And that accident ends up putting us in like a stop
Yeah,
in
they're
traffic.
gone now.
And now my blood pressure is like, and I'm like, oh no, like, I'm not going to make it to court. This is not going to be good. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to go to jail for this. Like, this is not good. So that's when I call the elder again. And I'm like, I actually get a hold of him. And he's like, Adam, you've been walking in the will of God this whole time. You've been doing everything you can to obey God. And none of us are perfect. So that's a key thing too. None of us are perfect. We're not gonna be perfect. The only perfect one is God. So in saying that, you are walking in the will of God as much as you possibly can. If you're doing that, then the situations that you're going through right now with your car, with the motorcycle accident, everything that's holding you back from court is showing you that you need to rely on God. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, I do rely on God. He was like, no, like, really rely on God. And I'm telling Vilma, I'm like, we got to rely on God. She was like, we do. And I was like, I know, but we got to rely on him right now. Like, we're losing our minds. We need to rely on him because our minds aren't going to stop until he is able to slow us down. And I get to the point to where I'm like, you know what? If I go to jail, which is a pretty good chance that I'm going to because I'm so late for circuit court. It's not even district court, it's circuit court.
Right.
There's a pretty good chance that I'm going to jail. I'm just going to look at it like someone in jail needs to hear about God and hear about what he's done in my life, and everything that I can possibly tell that person, I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them all the information that I have over this past year and a half. And I just have in my head, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm okay if I go to jail, which I'm pretty sure I'm about to. I'm okay with it because I know that God has a purpose for whatever's going on. And we get to court. As soon as we get to court, she drops me off right in the front of circuit court. She's like, I'm going to go park the car. I'll bring the kids in, and we'll meet you up there. And I was like, all right. So she drops me off. I get inside right where the metal detectors are. There's a lady in there that looks at me, and she goes, because I have my Bible with me. I wanted everyone in court to know that I came there not alone.
Right.
And that was my purpose with that. And I walk in, and this lady looks at me, and she says, "Oh, brother." She was like, "I'm surely happy to see that there's a man of God in here. This place really needs it. You know, God always comes out on top." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, he does." And she was like, no matter what the situation is, he always comes out on top. And I'm still in my head like, I'm going to jail.
Yeah, right.
And I get through there. I get over to the elevators. There's a woman coming out of the elevator. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, is that a Bible?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She was like, "Man of God." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And she was like, "What, are you here for jury duty?" I was like, "No, not at all." And she was like, "Well, whatever you're in here for, I just want you to know God always comes out on top."
Wow.
And I was like, all right, that's the second time I heard this. So I get in the elevator, I go up to the level that I got to be in for court. And as soon as I get out of the elevator, another lady comes up to me. says the exact same thing. Literally 3 women in a row, all in one area in the court system area, circuit court. And she looks at me and she goes, "Woo, I'm gonna let you know right now. I felt it as soon as you passed me. You just need to hear something." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I do need to hear something." She was like, "God always comes out on top."
That's crazy, man.
And I was like, "Yeah, I just heard that 2 other times. You're literally the 3rd person. I feel like I should be taking this." And she's like, "Yeah, it sounds like God's speaking to you." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And I get over to my right in front of my courtroom. There's a little bench, and my lawyer's sitting there. And I walked over to him, and I was like, not walked. I ran over to him, to be real. And I looked at him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry that I'm this late." But I had already texted him, telling him about all the issues and everything that I had on the way. So he knew about everything. And he looked at me, and he was like, "It's all right, Adam." And he just brushed it off like it's nothing. I was like, "All right, dude, so you can stand up now. We need to go in the courtroom so I can go ahead and like
Right.
do whatever I have to do." And he looks at me and he's like, "Adam, you don't even got to go into court." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, everything's already taken care of." And I was like, "What do you mean everything's already taken care of? I haven't even walked in there yet." He was like, "Apparently you weren't needed in there." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" He was like, "Whatever you're doing and whatever you've been doing, keep doing it, because whatever it is, you're doing the right thing." And everything was dismissed.
Wow.
And I was like, "You're telling me so this whole time I didn't even have to be there and it ended up getting dismissed?" God literally showed up in that courtroom for me in a place that I thought I had to be, a place that I thought I was going to get thrown in jail if I wasn't in there. And the whole time, all those things that I was stressing out before I ended up coming to the realization that I really just needed to fully focus on God and just trust in Him fully. He ended up showing me that He was already there, and it ended up getting dismissed.
Yeah, it
And
sounds like he brought you there just to tell you
literally,
he's always on top.
yeah. And then I leave the court system. This is like kind of weird, ironic thing is I leave the system and I'm walking out to the parking lot and I see this old lady and she's kind of walking slow towards the parking lot and she looks at me and she was like, "Is that a Bible in your hand, young man?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is." She was like, "Ooh, I bet you already know this." And I was like, "That God's always," and she said, "on time."
That is incredible, man.
And the craziest part is all these women looked like they were not in any way like the same style women or anything like that. I look at and I was like, "Where are you going?" She was like, "My daughters are coming to pick me up." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll wait with you real quick before I go to the car where my wife is." And she was like, "Oh, that's very nice of you, young man." And I sat there and waited with her for it was just like a minute or two, and we were just talking about God. And as soon as the car, it was like this Mercedes SUV pulled up, and I look up at the 3 women that are in there that are her daughters, and it's all 3 women that spoke to me in the
Are
court.
you serious?
All 3 of them.
That is
in the car.
unbelievable, man.
And she ended up speaking a verse to me, and the verse I can't really think of at this moment. My wife memorized it, so I could definitely tell you when we're at church later, but I don't remember it, so I'm not going to say it. But she told me a verse. I forgot the verse, and I was like, "Man, I really wish that I would remember what verse she told me to read." But I was so focused on what happened in court that I was like, "Man, I don't remember the verse." And we get to the car, and I get to the car, and I hug my wife, and we're both like crying and sharing a moment. And we get in the car, and I was like, I think we should go get breakfast. And both of us at the same time think of this place called First Watch. So we go to First Watch to eat breakfast. First, we went to Walmart to get more oil for the car.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then we went to First Watch to go get breakfast. And when we pull up, my wife and Leah end up going inside to go to the bathroom, and me and Max are kind of behind them, sitting there, kind of pep talking Max because he was tired and just kind of moping a little bit. So I'm pep talking him a little bit to get him like happy to go in and eat and everything. And we walk in, and as soon as we walk in, first of all, on the way there, the only thing I'm talking to God about is like, man, I wish that I could hear that verse again. And we get into First Watch, and the lady and her 3 daughters are in First Watch. And she looked at me and started laughing, hysterically laughing. And I was like, yep. I was like, I guess God really wants us to see each other today.
It's wild,
She
man.
was like, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, he does. And she was like, so everything worked out good? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And I looked at her. I was like, what was that verse again? And she ended up telling me the verse. And I was able to tell Velma. And Velma ended up looking up and really like felt spirit led with that verse. But it was like God wanted to show Velma that verse for whatever reason, because I can't remember it that well.
Right.
But it was a verse that was needed, and God ended up showing it just from me again, just talking to him.
Man, that is so cool.
But yeah, that's probably where I'll end, because probably because of time. I could keep talking to you all night
man.
about
Gosh,
miracles, man.
This
but
is amazing.
Fast track, man. God is doing amazing things, and when you hear people talk about what day and age it is and everything else, a lot of people try to brush that off, but just give God a few seconds of your time, and he will blow your mind. If you give him a year and a half, I imagine he would do this for anybody.
Absolutely.
So just give it to him, be obedient, and trust in him in every place and every moment.
Amen. Well, just before we sign off, I told you I'd give you an opportunity to do a plug for Celebrate Recovery. So
Amen.
You want to tell everybody a little bit about what that is and how they can find out more?
Amen. Yeah. So Celebrate Recovery is it's honestly the best and probably biggest first step for a lot of people coming from even outside of my background. Like, my wife is completely different than me with her background. It wasn't like addictions and things like that. It was other situations. Like I said, I'll let her tell you. But Celebrate Recovery covers everything, and it really shows you the proper and like the best ways to really step into faith and really step into repentance and everything with God, because repentance is ultimately the biggest first step that really opens up your mind and opens up your heart. Honestly, that's all things that Celebrate Recovery helps with. David Upchurch, Kimmy Upchurch, Brother Ellenberger, his son, also Jordan Ellenberger, amazing testimonies. Also, just like me, not the most perfect people, but God did the same things. So it's like, it's only God that can do these things.
Amen. And you can hear David Upchurch's testimony, like I said, on episode 4. And I believe Bruce Ellenberger's testimony was in episode 5. And I'll drop a link in the show description so that you can learn more about Celebrate Recovery. And if you're in the Anne Arundel County area, there will be a link to the Facebook group so that you can learn more about the Celebrate Recovery here at Antioch the Apostolic Church. So, Adam, I think that brings us to a wrap. I guess you kind of already covered this, but I like to give the witness an opportunity. There's somebody out there listening to this right now who may be like you and trying to find their way back, and they just don't really know where to start. What advice could you give to that person who hears this and wants it, but they don't know what do they do right now? What can they do right now?
Actually, the same thing that I did. Speak to God wherever you're at. If you're in a closet, if you're in a dumpster, if you're in behind a building, if you're in your car and you're homeless, whatever that situation is, just talk to God and talk to him like a normal person. He's not someone that you need to like recite all these things that you might think that you have to recite. You just talk to him like he's your best friend and know that he is. Know that he's your father and know that he's better than any father that any of us can ever have or imagine. And just know that there's always help out there. There's help in every way. Just like I said before, Celebrate Recovery was a big thing for me. God uses everybody around you, though. Not necessarily just people from one church, but he uses people from everywhere to help guide you to where you really need to be.
Yeah, 4 ladies in a courthouse.
So I got
not
this.
to mention all the people that knocked on your door at the Royal Farm store.
Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. But just like you said, I have this quote that's from Celebrate Recovery that I looked at before and I was like, and that would be cool. But now it's like I'm able to actually do this. And the quote says, "One day you will tell your story and how you overcame what you went through, and it will be someone's survival guide." And if you're out there and you've been through similar things to me, maybe worse, maybe not as bad, just take my advice and seek God. Seek God before every human being in this world, and he'll show you.
Amen. Adam, thank you so much for, being willing to open up and be so transparent and for sharing this with us tonight. I really appreciate you being here, man. And like I said, knowing you over the past 10 years in the little ways that we've known each other has been a blessing, but it's like compounded tonight, man. I'm walking away from here feeling very inspired. So thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you, man.
God bless you, bro.
And with that, Adam has stepped down from the stand. Thank you again, Adam, for sharing that testimony and reminding us that God is with us even when he is farthest from our mind. I'm reminded of the prodigal son after he had run out of money and he was working in the pigsty, and he was so hungry he was fighting the pigs for food. But I believe that even there in that nastiness, God was with him. It also makes me think of the words of King David in Psalms 139. And honestly, I tried to whittle this down and just like pick out the verses that really stuck out, but verses 1 through 18 are just so beautiful. I really would like to just share verses 1 through 18 with you. So Psalms 139 verses 1 through 18, and this is the New Living Translation. O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to hell, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness I cannot hide from you. To you the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous, how well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand, and when I wake up, you are still with me. And ladies and gentlemen, he's still with you. You can't get away from him. He's after you. He needs you. So why don't you just turn around, say hi, and let him in? Well, that wraps up episode 17. And I just wanted to mention once more, we now have a website, and you can find that at www.thewitnesspodcast.org. The website is pretty basic at the moment, but I encourage you to go check it out. There's info about the podcast, links to the latest episodes, as well as a link that will take you to all of our episodes. There's also a place where you can donate to the podcast if you would like to partner up with us on what we're trying to do here. I'd like to eventually be able to promote the podcast on some other platform so that we can reach as many people as possible with this message. And your donations could certainly help us with that mission. So I will leave a link to the website in our show notes, so make sure you check that out. I also have an email address now where you can reach me. That's thewitnesspod@gmail.com. That's thewitnesspod@gmail.com. You can contact me there to let me know what you think of the show, if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes, if you have questions about anything we've talked about on here, or if you have a critique or something you think would make the podcast better. So please reach out. I promise that I will read every single email that comes my way, and I'll do my best to respond. Well, I think that covers everything for now. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like or leave us a review. And like I always say, most importantly, and this is most importantly above any donations, anything else you could do, reaching out, subscribing, more importantly, above anything else, share this with someone that you know could use some encouragement from it. If you want to be notified every time a new episode drops, make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram, where I post additional pictures, reels, and other content. I think that's everything. Like I said before, I will leave links in the show notes to the website, the email address, and Instagram. And until next time, we are adjourned.